G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be taking a look at my final team for the AFL Fantasy season. Of course, AFL Fantasy is actually starting in round 1 and was not starting in opening round. But before we jump straight into that, as you can see in the top left hand corner right now, you can join our AFL Fantasy League. Now there are a few spots left, so make sure to join in quickly. But we do have a couple of awesome prizes for the winner if you can beat me and my brother. If you win, you will get a $125 gift voucher to the AFL store, along with a AFL print from our design company, BR Designs. So we do have a bunch of AFL prints for every single team, and we will be making new prints in the future. So if you want to go check out those prints, the link is down below for BR Designs, and when you're over there, if you want to purchase one, make sure to use the code YouTube for 10% off your purchase. But guys, let's jump straight into my AFL Fantasy team. So we'll go through listing all the names, and then maybe a couple of ones I'll just highlight why I've picked them. So we'll start with the defenders, and we have Nick Dacos, Harry Sheezel, Hayden Young, Elliot Yeo, Zach Williams, and Josh Gibcus. In the midfield, we have Marcus Bontempelli, Tom Green, Luke Davies-Uniacke, Touk Miller, Nick Martin, Jackson Mead, Colby McKercher, and Riley Sanders. For the ruck, it's pretty simple. Max Gawn and Brodie Grundy. And then for the forwards, we have Sam Flanders, Zach Fisher, James Jordan, Alex Sexton, Harley Reid, and Caleb Windsor. Now on the reserves, this may change depending on what players get their debut in round 1 or get a game as a low price player. We have Zach Reid, Ari Schoenmaker, Matt Roberts, Jai Clark, Harry Barnett, Charlie Lazaro, Darcy Wilson, and then Aaron Cadman. I'll start with my defense. My defenders actually were changed in the opening round due to the fact that unfortunately it has been confirmed that Kitty Coleman has done an ACL, so I had to take him out and I've put in Elliot Yeo. I think he's going to be in for a big year playing the midfield as long as his body holds up. Fingers crossed his body holds up. I think he's in for a big year. And then I've picked up Zach Williams. I thought he had a really good game in opening round. One of the few positives from opening round is you could see a few players, see how they go. I think he's in for a big year. I did have Nick Caulfield there, but I think Zach Williams is a good spot there for now. And I want to kind of see how Nick Caulfield goes in his first game if he does play. Looking in the midfield, a couple of ones I think maybe question marks on for some people is Nick Martin and Jackson Mead. Now first, Nick Martin. The reason why I have picked him is because I think if he does get that half-back role, he'll definitely go straight in. He'll go straight into the back line. I think round 6 they will be doing the positional changes if he does. So I think that he'll slot straight into my defense if that is the case. However, if he doesn't, it does look like the role that he will get this year is he will be used quite a lot because he's quite a good ball user. And I think Essendon do need that. So I think he's going to have a pretty good year. And in the 2 preseason games that he did play, I think he was above quite a lot of the midfielders for Essendon. So I think he's in for a massive year. He did kind of get a wing role, so hopefully that's not the case for AFL Fantasy-wise, because I think he may have some quiet days. That's still a bit of a question mark for me, but I think right now the price point around that mark's kind of him, Ollie Wines, Matt Crouch. I think Nick Martin's my safest choice, in my opinion. And then Jackson Mead, I actually think he's quite a big point of difference, a pod, as you may heard, like as an AFL fantasy term. He's quite unique. I don't think anyone's really got him, but I think in the pre-season for Port Adelaide, he's been used quite a lot through the midfield. He had a really good he had a good match simulation, had a good pre-season game. I think he scored 90 in the pre-season game, and I think he only scored about 57 in the match simulation, but that game was quite shortened and it was a lot of rotation. So I'm not going to take that one too much into account, but when I saw him, he looked like he was going to get a lot of touches. So that's kind of why I've got Jackson Mead there. I think he's really cheap at around 400k. I think he will increase. I think he can have a good 65, 70 average season, so maybe even more than that. I'd really love that. I would love for him to go around 80. I may change him. I kind of put him there. I was going to pick Jeremy Sharp as another option. He is 100k less, but I just don't know how much of a role he's going to get. In the preseason games he's played, he hasn't exactly shone brightly, so I don't know if that spot exactly is cemented for him by any means. So we'll see how he goes in round 1 for Freo against Brisbane. And if he does get a game and play as well, let's be honest, it's not much of a different change if Jackson Mead does play poorly, because I can quickly swap them around maybe, and we'll kind of see how we go. The ruckman, Max Gawn and Brodie Grundy, I'm not taking too much account about Max Gawn, being beaten really badly by Brodie Grundy. I thought Brodie Grundy had a really good game, but if those two going up against each other can perform like that, against other oppositions with lesser ruckmen, these guys are going to dominate. Brodie Grundy absolutely cemented his spot in my team with that performance against Melbourne, and Max Gawn's first half and a bit, I think he played really well. So Yes, he did tire, but the game that he did play was a very hot game. It was very humid, so I'm not going to take too much into account for that. And the fact that he scored 92 in a game like that without having to take a lot of marks, I think is a really good performance from him. Sam Flanders answered all the questions he needed to in that opening round game. He scored really well, scored 92 in the end, so he's locked in for me. I think he's going to get some good midfield minutes under Dimmer Hardwick. Zach Fisher in that pre-season game that he played was brilliant. 136 in the end, playing off like a half-back wing role for North Melbourne. I think he's in for a big year. I was a little bit concerned about the hamstring that was talked about, but I think he's locked in now. James Jordan, a couple of you may be a little bit scared because he only scored 76, but he had a really poor first quarter and a half. I think he was only got about 10, and he was able to get 76 in the end. So I wouldn't be too concerned. I think he had a little bit of jitters early against his former side, but he looked good. So I wouldn't be too concerned about James Jordan. Alex Sexton was brilliant in his game. I think he scored about 70 or 80, so he's a lock. Harley Reid in that second pre-season game did everything he could to lock his spot in there. Caleb Windsor, only about 40 in his first game, so not the best, but it is his first game. You know, we've got to expect a couple of bad games from, like, we can't expect all the rookies to get 80s and 90s, so, you know, I think he's safe enough to go there for now. Obviously, one that may have been the swap for, like, Harley Reid or Caleb Windsor, even Sexton, really, is Finlay McRae, but he wasn't even in the first team for Collingwood. He may come in round one because they did lose, but the fact that he's such a fringe player, I think that it's just a little bit more of a wait and see on Finlay McRae. Now, looking at the reserves, Zach Reid and Ari Schoenmaker. Schoenmaker has been in and out of my team for a while now. I didn't know if he's going to debut. Like I said, the reserves will change depending on who debuts, but Schoenmaker looks like he's going to get a spot done there. With Jimmy Webster's suspension, I think he's probably a lock. He had a really good preseason game, had 11 marks, 83 odd fantasy points, so I think he's in for a good start. Zach Reid played really well for Essendon in their second preseason game. I think he's going to be relatively a lock. He was a very high draft pick when he was picked up, so I think he's all in there. Matt Roberts had a really good game for the Swans in opening round. He got 91. He's a very good left footer, so I think he's locked in. Jai Clark, I think Geelong have to just use a more younger midfield, so I think he's definitely going to get some game time into him this year. And I think he can average a good 60, 70. I think that's pretty fair. Harry Barnett, honestly, just if any 200k ruckman plays, they will be in there. So he's basically just a placeholder for the moment. Charlie Lazaro, he's had a pretty good preseason. A lot of big talk about him. He had had a really good first preseason game, and the second game was quite good as well. I think he's got about 80 in that second game, so that looks all good from me. 288, obviously quite lowered from last year because he had a lot of substitute games. I think he's in their best 23 going into the start of the season. I don't think he will be the sub at all. Darcy Wilson had a massive game for St Kilda in their final preseason game. I think he'll debut round one. I don't think there's any questions about that. And the last one is Aaron Cadman. In opening round, he kicked 2 goals. Wasn't a massive performance from him, but I think he's in for a big year. My brother has been singing his praises all preseason, so I think Aaron Cadman's going to be locked into that GWS forward line, and they look dangerous this year. So if he can keep his spot, I think he can average a good 50 or 60, and we'll wait and see on Aaron Cadman. To be honest, at this stage, the only other player I've maybe thought of bringing into my team from the opening round performances was Howes, who was a Melbourne defender. He scored 74 in the end as a tall defender. Looks quite good, quite competent down the back for Melbourne. He is 200k, so it's a thinking point so far. I will just wait and see on that one. So maybe not so much wait to see round one. Maybe we'll see where the teams come out, and then I'll maybe make that decision. Because Zach Reid is 253k, while Howes is obviously 200. But at the moment, I'm kind of confident on this team. I think it's a pretty good team to start off with. Yeah, that's really all I've got to say about my AFL fantasy team, guys. This is basically my locked-in team for round one. Like I said, make sure to join our AFL Fantasy League. A couple of spots are still left in the league, and like I said, awesome prizes to come if you are able to win it. Make sure to like this video if you did enjoy it, if you thought it was a good breakdown of my AFL fantasy team. Make sure to subscribe because we've got so much content to come throughout the AFL season, guys. And yeah, make sure to check out BR Designs, which is linked down below. Use code YouTube for 10% off your purchase. But really appreciate you guys watching this video, and we'll catch you all next time.